Gonzaga will take on Arizona State this Friday. I'm Connor. He's J-Man with Sleepers Media. Um, I've been able to talk about Gonzaga a ton on this channel. Why don't we start off with Jordan with just your thoughts on this Gonzaga team and what they've shown in the first three games of the season?
Yeah, I mean, dude, their defense is phenomenal. I mean, they're they're fifth already in Ken Palm in their defense. Offensive efficiencies there as well. EK is as dominant as what I thought he was going to be, but what has surprised me with him is I think he's 4 of 8 from three in 3 games. He's the leading three-point shooter on the team, and just when I thought that he couldn't get any better offensively, he continues to do that. He's just a man. Like coming off 20 and 10 and basically he's averaging a double double for Gonzaga. And the way Gonzaga handled Creighton, I mean 90 to 63, it's just this team is really good and led by Graham Ike, who is just one of the best big men in college basketball.
Yeah, Graham EK. No, I tweeted this out. Graham EK is the first Gonzaga player to start off the season with three straight double doubles since the 2010, 2011 season, something like that. 2011, 2012 season, when Rob
Wow.
Sacre did it. Rob Sacre, though, did it against Eastern Washington, Hawaii, and I think it was Washington State. Certainly not the same caliber of team as an Oklahoma or a Creighton in there. Um, I do think that this game, though, throws a little bit of a wrinkle at Gonzaga. Arizona State, obviously also undefeated, coached by Bobby Hurley. A new look team, kind of led by one player that Gonzaga is incredibly familiar with in Mo Odum, transfer from Pepperdine, and another player that they are not so familiar with in freshman Masamba Job. Um, what have you seen from Job? Because I know Mo Odom's been around, past first point guard, but I think Job is a very interesting player. Kind of at a 7-1, but doesn't play like it.
Yeah, Jop is like it's just going to be over exaggerating, but he's like a unicorn. Like when I first watched his highlights of the first game of the season, I didn't know who this guy was, and the first highlight is him getting a loose ball and being a point guard, going all the way to the rim for a layup. And I quoted, I was like, "Who is this dude? Like, where did this guy come from?" And Jop is just an interesting prospect at 7-1. He's fluid with his motion, and I mean, 16 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, and then. Look, 1.5 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks to round out his stats. He is an interesting NBA prospect to me, and I don't know where he came from for Arizona State. Fell into Bobby Hurley's lap, and I'm a Duke fan, and I would love for the brotherhood. I said you sign when you get a Division I head coaching job, you sign in blood that your best player, maybe the next year you have to give him over to Duke because he's the type of center where I'm like, he's special. I like Jop a lot, and I obviously think he might be one and done, but. This is a good matchup to where I'm going to be watching him against EK because as fun as Jop has been, he's not played a guy like EK down low. So this is going to be a fun matchup for me to watch that front court battle.
Yeah, certainly hasn't played a player like EK, hasn't played a player like Braden Huff. Um,
Yeah.
Arizona State's first games of the season were against Southern Utah and Utah Tech, not the biggest teams in the country. And I think it's going to be a difficult task for Arizona State. They have Job, and then they have Truitt, who played for San Diego, so another player that Gonzaga has played against in Santiago Truitt. 6'11", again, just not big from a pure just size perspective. Both of them are very tall, very lanky. Um, and I think the size of Gonzaga, specifically from the two starting bigs, could be an issue. We saw Arizona State get out rebounded by Southern Utah. They only out rebounded Utah Tech, I believe, by 5. Utah Tech doesn't have a player over 6'8". Um, I think that could be an issue, given how good the perimeter defense for Gonzaga has been. I do think that Arizona State, to win this game, will need to get going on the glass. And Gonzaga's looked, I mean, this is on track to be their best offensive rebounding team under Mark Few. So I want to get your thoughts on that because that's the one thing with Jop that I'm kind of not impressed with is that he's 7-1 but doesn't play like 7-1. Like he plays like a wing, which in a good way, he can score from the perimeter and get going to the basket. But on the flip side, it means that, he's not the prolific rebounder that you would expect from a 7-1.
Yeah, you don't want your 7-1 guy only averaging 5.5 rebounds. When Truitt is leading the team and off in rebounding with 6.5, your 7-footer should be averaging about 8 a game in college basketball. So you make a valid point with the rebounding aspect because like Gonzaga is if the shot's not falling for Gonzaga, they will bully you at the rim where, yeah, our 3-point ball is not falling, but we're crashing the glass and we're getting second chance points. And that's how they can still Arizona State can still get routed by Gonzaga because of second chance points. As we've seen Mark few teams have just the aggressiveness and that is my main concern with this Arizona State team because, like you said, the two teams they've played have been, bye games, and they haven't really necessarily ran them out of the gym. I know they're 2-0, but a 17 and a 15-point win against Southern Utah and Utah Tech doesn't make me feel all that confident in Arizona State as they go against a team that loves to offensive rebound.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is it's not just, Gonzaga's stronger, not necessarily as tall, but they're stronger on the interior. Their length on the perimeter and on the wing, especially off the bench, is against this smaller Arizona State backcourt where Mo Odom's 6'2". I think that's pretty generous. 6'2". Anthony Johnson 6'3", Bryce Ford 6'4". Like they're not big guards. And you've got the size and athleticism of Ty Grant Foster is 6'7" and athletic. Jalen Warley, whose verticality on rebounds and putbacks is incredible, is 6'7". Um, Mario St. Superi, their star freshman guard, is 6'3". The only player under 6'3" for them is Braden Smith, who's like a little pit bull at the
Yeah.
point guard. Like he's not lanky, but we've seen him so far. He's just you can't get by him really, so you have to kind of go over him. Um, but Adam Miller too, who's playing his former team in this game, um, has shown a high motor and has length on his body. So there are so many ways this Gonzaga team can attack you. It's almost like their identity is just they have dogs. Like they
Yeah.
have. I don't really feel like they found their identity on the offensive end yet.
Yeah.
And so, which is scary, I think, for a lot of the country.
Yeah,
But
they're shooting 31% from three. Like to get to your point, like they're still finding out their offense identity. But when we're talking about the defense side of the ball, Superi, his guys guard when he's guarding the ball or the shooter, they're 3 of 17 on the year against him, 17% from the field. Like Arizona State's guard play is going to go against him, and then Ty Grant Foster, 23.5% when guarded by him. Like the defense for Gonzaga is just going to make it hell for Arizona State. And so it doesn't matter if the shot's not falling because I think it's going to be very hard for Arizona State to score against a talented defense that Gonzaga has.
yeah, and I almost feel like Gonzaga's approach to this game should just be make Mo Odom beat you. Mo Odom
Yeah.
has had one good game against Gonzaga. He scored 24 points it was an 8-point loss for Pepperdine to Gonzaga. Um, but he is a pass first point guard. He's not necessarily looking to take over the game from a scoring perspective. But Braden Smith and Mario Saint-Superi can defend him one-on-one adequately. And if you
Mhm.
just shut off the rest of the scoring and make Mo Odom beat you, I think that's the recipe for success in this game because he's shooting 27% from two on the year. And I don't necessarily think his 3-point shooting game is off the bounce. It's kind of like the ball gets swung back to him and he's making them. And I just, to me, it's you don't want him to be able to get everyone else going. So you either have to take the ball out of your hand, which Gonzaga has shown they can do with point guards, or you just make him beat you scoring. don't even let him become the playmaker. And I think that's kind of what Gonzaga might end up doing is just playing one on one. You know, they switch 1 through 3 and then they switch 4 and 5 just religiously. And but I do think that you're not going to be able to defend them like you did Creighton. Like Gonzaga threw on switches, they had Emmanuel Innocenti and Jalen Worley fronting Creighton's big men, and you're just not going to be able to do that with Jop. He's too big at that point. So you're going to have to keep your bigs on the bigs, keep your guards and your wings on Arizona State's guards. But I'm struggling to find a true path outside of just going ballistic from three, which Arizona State teams have been known to do at times. I'm struggling to find a path for Arizona State to really have a true advantage over Gonzaga.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're shooting 38% on the year from three, so maybe they get hot. Maybe they start off hot because they're amped up for Gonzaga, but that's a deadly it's a deadly place to be with Arizona State if that's not falling and you live and die by the three. And you're right on about Mo because Mo Odum dribble jumpers this year, he's 3 of 11. So there you go, that he just 3 of 11 from dribble jumpers, 0 of 3 around the rim. So everything that he has made basically has been a catch and shoot three because that's just what he is this season for Arizona State. So if Arizona State has to have a chance, he's got to produce with the ball off the dribble because if he does not and it's just stagnant catch and shoot, then again, Bobby Hurley's team is just going to, and Bobby Hurley's team is going to struggle to score because look, Mark Few is going to make sure a guy that averages 7 assists a game is not going to be a facilitator to get Arizona State good looks. They're going to take away that stuff and let Odom try and beat him one on one because statistically proven he's inefficient in doing so. And so it could be a very tough night for Arizona State. I'm curious to see how Bobby Hurley will adapt to that because of Mo Odom's what he can do as a playmaker, facilitating the ball. Can he be productive for them, putting the ball on the floor and going to get a bucket against a top five defense in the country? I don't like those odds right now.
Yeah, no, and I think you have to kind of get Jop at some point going towards the basket. I know when last I checked, I think it was last night, and I'm pretty confident that I'm remembering the numbers, but he was like 3 of 10 or something inside the paint and at the rim. Which one of those numbers stuck out more to me than the other. Uh, Not necessarily the efficiency. I think the sheer number being that low when you're going up against a Utah Tech and a Southern Utah
Yeah.
stuck out to me. Like he was not getting at the rim, taking a lot of mid-range jumpers. And so I just think, I mean, one of them has to either Mo Odom or Jop have to score a ton to keep Arizona State in this game. But we've seen like this Gonzaga defense is different, and I don't think the intensity is gonna fade in this game against Arizona State, especially on the road. It's their first road game of the season for Gonzaga, so maybe even ratchet up the intensity a little bit just to overcome that home crowd. Um, but with that, I want to get your prediction. What do you think the score in this game is going to be?
Yeah, Kim Palm has an 85-74. I kind of like it more for Gonzaga. I think this is a 20-point win for Gonzaga. I think this is like 85 is almost on the nose for where I'd say. I would go 87-67 Gonzaga. I just think it's going to be really tough for Arizona State to be efficient on the offensive side of the ball because what Gonzaga can do defensively. And then, as you said, Jop is going to have to be a guy that scores for them. And I think, as high as I am on him, it's a tough battle where I can see him having like 16 points on 17 shots, or he's like 6 of 17 and he gets a 16 and six. But it's going to be a 20-point win for Gonzaga.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with like 91 73, so an 18-point win. I don't know if it quite hits 20 um for a multitude of reasons. But one of them being I do think you start to see the Holland Davis Vogel lineup that comes in at the end of games in this one, which is a negative in a plus from a plus minus perspective. Um, But I just think Gonzaga has too many guys and too much talent on the perimeter, too much size and length on the perimeter this season, and then they're going to have the front court advantage over, I think, basically every team they play this season. So if the perimeter can win their battles and the front court, is going to be better than, every team they play this season, minus maybe Kentucky if Quaintance is fully healthy. Um, I just think it's going to be a really tough one. So with that, uh, I'm Connor. He's J-Man, Sleepers Media. Make sure you tune in after the game. We will have a recap of everything that happens, and hopefully it's a good one because as a Gonzaga fan, all the games that I've watched have been good ones. Um, but outside of the watching these runs that they've gone on in the first half against Oklahoma, second half against Creighton, I'm not sure that they've been necessarily good ones uh, for non-fan viewers. So hopefully we get at least a good half of basketball before Gonzaga starts to pull away.